First Lady Redonda. I'm in the kitchen cooking. As you can see, it's Thanksgiving Eve, and I've already got a few things started. I've got my potatoes here that I'm going to use to make potato salad, and they've been boiling for a little while. And if you come a little closer, you can actually see that I've got my chickens. They've been seasoned and they're boiling. And as you can see, they're making a really good rich broth that we'll use a little bit for our dressing. So today we're going to talk about how to make chicken and dressing, which is my favorite. I don't really like turkey. It's a little bit dry and sometimes it's too much meat for my family. So we actually like chicken and dressing. So this is actually going to be chicken and dressing. And as you can see, I've already made one pan of cornbread, and I'm about to make a little bit more because my family, we love our cornbread dressing. So the first thing that I like to do is I like to take a little bit of canola oil and I like to put it in my pan. It's just a glass dish, kind of like, well, that one's a 4x4. I think that's a 13x9. But anyway, put the oven on 350 and let the oil get hot, because a lot of people don't understand the important thing about cornbread is you got to get the oven hot, and you got to get the grease hot, and you got to get the pan hot to make your cornbread. So that's lesson number one. So now, what I like to use is my all-time favorite, and this is the one that my mom always taught me to use, is this Aunt Jemima buttermilk cornbread. I say Aunt Jemima. Some people say Aunt Jemima. But anyway, Auntie Jemima, whatever you want to say. But this is my favorite brand of cornmeal mix. And the reason why I like cornmeal mix is because, as you can see, it's already got the flour, the salt, and the baking powder blended in. So really, the hard work's done for you on that. Some people like to use the Aunt Jemima self-rising white cornmeal mix. You can use that if you're not able to find the buttermilk. But my favorite is the buttermilk because it's a little bit more yellow. It has a good color. It makes your dressing have a really good color. So I've been doing this for a long time, so I don't usually measure my ingredients. I kind of just look at it. I can eyeball it and see exactly what I need, but I use 2% milk. You can use whole milk. It really doesn't even matter. But you never crack an egg in your mixture because the eggs may be bad, and if the eggs are bad, you don't want to use them. And once you get an egg in your mixture, you can't really take it out. So I like to crack my eggs in a cup or glass or even a bowl, and then add them to the mixture later. So you need a good spatula, and I usually like to kind of run my spatula through the cornmeal mix just to make sure that it's blended in really well and to make sure there's not really any lumps. And you really want to look at it to make sure that it's actually not anything floating around in there. Make sure it's good cornmeal. So, as I said, I don't mix. I know that's hard for people. I don't measure as I mix. I don't have a measuring cup with this. I kind of just, like I said, eyeball it. So I'm just kind of stirring it through. And when I was a kid, I used to watch my mom make cornbread dressing all the time. It was one of my favorite things to do around Thanksgiving was to be in the kitchen with her. Just watching her cook, and she'd always let me help. My main chore that I always had to do was I had to cut up the bell pepper and the onion and the celery, which of course at the time I hated it. She didn't really have like one of those food processors that everybody has right now that makes everything so easy. But I used to have to do it by hand. So I used to have to cut up bell pepper, onions, and celery. That was my Thanksgiving and Christmas chore to make the dressing. But anyway, can't complain now because I learned how to cook. All because of her. So I'm just kind of adding a little bit more. It's a little bit thicker than I would like for it to be. So I'm just adding a little bit more. And as you can see, I'm just kind of smoothing out the lumps in this mix. I'm just kind of stirring it until it gets smooth. And these kind of flat spatulas They really do kind of help with that, because as you're mixing it, you can be flattening out some of those lumps too. Of course, the milk is cold, but that's okay because we're going to add some hot oil to kind of temper this batter. So then I add in the eggs one at a time. And depending upon how much cornbread you're trying to make, you can add the amount of eggs you're going to need. I usually do 2 eggs for 1 pan of cornbread. So if you're going to make a larger pan of cornbread, then you'll probably need 3 eggs. And then I add the other egg and just kind of smooth it in. And as you can see, when you add those eggs, that yolk kind of gives it more of a yellow color to your cornbread. And especially when you get through baking it, you'll really see how much of a golden brown color it is. So you want to make sure that your spatula is running all the way through. You want to make sure that your cornbread's good and smooth. You want to make sure that you don't have any lumps running through there. Jordan, come check on the potatoes for me. Kind of stick a fork in them and see if they're getting soft, because if they are, we need to turn the fire off on those potatoes because we don't want soggy potatoes for our potato salad. Come on, girlfriend. Got mama out in the kitchen. You know, you gotta pass the tradition on. When I used to help my mom in the kitchen, it was the best time. So now, I like to have my daughter help me in the kitchen too. Say hi, Jordan. Hello. Just stick a fork in them and see. Are they good?
Yep.
Are they soft?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, we probably need to turn the fire off on them. Alright, so we'll turn the fire off on those. And now I'll move that to the back. It's time to get this hot oil and kind of temper this batter with this cornbread. And as you can see, it's probably about 1/4 cup of oil. But I just pour a little bit in there and you'll hear the sizzle. And you just kind of stir it. That's going to temper your batter. So you want that pan good and hot. So I'm going to stir this really quickly and get this cornbread in this pan while it's still hot. As I said, sometimes your oven may vary. This is an oven here that kind of cooks fast, so I only put it on 350 for my cornbread. You may have to go up to 375 or 400 in your own oven. But as you can see, you just get that oil blended in there and just kind of temper that batter a little bit and get it hot. And as it goes in, you can kind of see the sizzle. And you can kind of see how it's on the sides there, already kind of bubbling up. That lets you know your pan is good and hot. So this is gonna go into this oven in the center rack there. Probably for about 30 minutes, but I'll keep an eye on it. And that's just part one, making the cornbread dressing. We're starting with the cornbread. You gotta have the cornbread right if you want your cornbread dressing to be right. We'll be right back. Hey, we're back. It's Thanksgiving Eve, and we're doing part one. As you can see, our cornbread is ready. When you touch it, it still kind of has a little spongy feel to it. All right, so now the cornbread has to cool, and then as you can see, our chickens are done. And we're gonna add the bell pepper, onion, celery, and all the other ingredients, but we'll let the cornbread cool and we'll get started.
I'm about to watch the food.
Well, as you can see, our cornbread is ready. And now we've got all our ingredients assembled here, and we are gonna get ready to get started with our cornbread dressing. As you can see, my husband loves ESPN. Always getting notifications. There must be a game getting ready to start. What I do is I just take the cornbread, and as you can see, I just kind of sliced it through and through, and I just crumble it up with my hands. And as you can see, it's really crumbly. And I just take it, use clean hands, of course. And you just crumble up the cornbread as much as possible. Okay. So that's part of that. And as you can see, we'll keep crumbling that. But this is my little mini food processor or mini food chopper. I'm just going to take some celery and some bell pepper and some onions. I'll just kind of do a rough chop because it's going to do the majority of the work for me, which is good. These things really help keep you out of the kitchen all day. So if you have one of these little mini food choppers, they're really a lifesaver. I think I got this for Christmas one year. Awesome Christmas gift, because it's the gift that keeps on giving year after year. But I just take just a few, take a little celery and a little bit of pepper and put in my little food processor. And it's really a simple process of just kind of adding the vegetables. Gonna do some onion here, just a rough chop, and add it to the chopper. And this saves a lot of time because you know when you're chopping onions, tend to make your eyes water. So the quicker you can get that onion worked through, the better, so that you don't have to worry about crying, tears. Just gonna add a little more of the bell pepper here into the mixture, and then I'll get ready to do a little bit more of a chop. And some people like their vegetables kind of, I guess, in bigger pieces, but I prefer it to be really kind of finely chopped. And one of the things that I do when I make cornbread dressing is I mix it all up, and then I actually let it sit overnight before I cook it. So once I add all the ingredients, then I assemble it all and add it. Oh, these onions are strong. Burning my eyes. Oh. I let it sit overnight in the refrigerator. And then I cook it in the morning or right before we get ready to actually eat. I'm gonna use a little bit of the cornbread that I cooked in the larger pan. This cornbread here, pretty much all gone, so just gonna keep crumbling it and adding it as I go. So I'm just gonna keep mixing this. Then I'll come back and show you. As I keep crumbling up the cornbread, I'm gonna keep adding cornbread. I'm gonna keep adding the bell pepper, the onion, and the celery. And when I get it to the desired mixture, then we'll come back and I'll show you how to put it all together. See you in a bit. Okay, we're back and we've got the dressing, putting it together, the cornbread dressing. And as you can see in the mixture, you can see the bits of bell pepper, onion, and celery. And you can see the bits of cornbread. And I'm just kind of stirring it, just kind of combining it a little bit more. You can see the bits of cornbread. That makes it really look authentic, like it's real cornbread dressing. And so this looks a little bit dry, so I'm just gonna add a little bit more of the vegetables, and then I'll start adding in the broth, the liquid. And what I do is I also add cream of chicken soup. And you can use whichever kind you like, whatever brand you like. But I like to use cream of chicken soup because this is chicken and dressing, not turkey and dressing. So actually, it gives it that really great chicken flavor. So I'm going to start by adding in the cream of chicken. And as you can see, it's really a thick condensed soup. And so it's gonna really blend in nicely and moisturize, makes it really, really moist dressing. And it gives it a good flavor too. And it actually adds in a lot of salt because the soup is really salty. And I use the chicken broth that is reduced to sodium just because I don't like to add a whole lot of salt. If the chicken broth is reduced sodium, it'll flavor it nicely without you having to add a whole lot of salt. And as you can see, this was one whole of the smaller pan, and then pretty much, I guess 3/4 or so of the larger pan of cornbread, and it made this much. Dressing. So I'm just adding in the broth and just kind of stirring the mixture in. And it's kind of sometimes hard to tell how much you're going to need, but like I said, when you look at it, and if the consistency is kind of where your desired consistency is, not too thin. This is sage, which is a really common Thanksgiving, or I guess Christmas also, but when you make your dressing, it's the seasoning that you use is sage. So I'm just gonna start adding in the sage. It has a really woodsy smell to it, sage. I love it. It's hard to make cornbread dressing without sage because you really have to have that woodsy smell, that woodsy flavor to your cornbread dressing. So it's stirring in nicely. I also add a little bit of black pepper just to give it a little bit of a peppery flavor to it as well. Not a whole lot because the sage is kind of woodsy and peppery also, but the black pepper gives it a little bit more of a kick. So this is how the desired consistency of it is. As you can hear it as I'm stirring it, you can hear just kind of how moist it is. It's not dry. As you can see, it's not really crumbly anymore because we've kind of added in the moisture with the cream of chicken. And I'm just gonna keep kind of stirring this in until I get to the desired consistency and spread it out, and then I'll show you how to add in the chicken. We're gonna add in the chicken and just get the presentation all together. So I'll show you that in a bit. Okay, so now that we have gotten our cornbread dressing seasoned and flavored the way we want it, I'm just kind of smoothing it out, and I'm just trying to get it in the pan evenly spread out. And then we're gonna add, the last part really is our chicken into our pan. And this is a roaster that I like to use. And I'm not going to cook it, as I said. I'm going to let it sit overnight in the refrigerator and let all the flavors just kind of soak in and meld together, and it's really going to taste good tomorrow. So then I kind of just make a little bit of a hole, because I want the chicken to fit in really nicely. So I take my chicken that's already been cooked. You would never put a raw chicken in your dressing mixture. And I take the chicken that's already been cooked, and I just put it kind of right in the center, and then I just kind of smooth everything out around it. And as I'm smoothing, and if I wanted to, I could put both of the chickens in there. But I think at this point, I just kind of want to put the one chicken in. And I just take a clean paper towel and just kind of smooth around the edges. Just want your presentation to be neat. Just kind of smooth around the edges. And now it's ready to go in the refrigerator overnight. I cover it, and we'll be ready in the morning to put it in the oven. Chicken and dressing. It's gonna be great tomorrow. Happy Thanksgiving. It is Thanksgiving. And as we said, we're going to pull our chicken and dressing out of the oven. It's been in the oven at 350 for about an hour. And that's the finished product. Of course, you can serve it with giblet gravy and, of course, cranberry sauce. But I hope you enjoy it, and I hope you try it. Try the recipe. and have a happy Thanksgiving. Be blessed.
Jesus, everything.